This is Tiffany. I'm here at the Secret Space Program in San Mateo, California. I am about to interview Robert Morningstar. I saw him speak yesterday about the moon, about alien activity on the moon, and many aspects about that coming up next. Oh, this one's really the hanger. Robert Morningstar. I listened to Robert Morningstar speak yesterday, and it was very interesting. I had heard some little bits and pieces about the moon from Sasha Stone in our other episodes, and then I listened to this man speak yesterday, and it started making more and more sense. A lot of things being disclosed now seem crazy, but they're not crazy. It's us thinking this is all there is, this material object in front of us, that is the crazy thing right now.
Yeah,
okay.
I agree.
Great. So he's got some wonderful evidence and pieces of media that he'd like to share us, and he says it belongs to us.
Absolutely. What I've discovered are the most important photographs ever taken by the Apollo project, and they lay buried in archives for, now it's 42 years since the last flight, Apollo 17 and Apollo 16 were in 1972. And these photos were, as I said, buried in archives, very difficult to access for many years. And even when you see them, if you don't go deeply into them, you will not find what's really recorded there. And what I'm going to show you are towers on the moon. For years, decades, we've heard legends of towers on the far side of the moon, UFOs, space stations. That's what I'm going to show you. I'm going to show you a constellation of space stations that are permanently parked on the far side of the moon, towers that are, my estimate, almost 100 miles high, all over the moon. And it indicates an extraterrestrial presence because these things could not be ours. They're not of this earth. And it also explains why Apollo missions 18, 19, and 20 were canceled.
When were those missions?
They were supposed to be after the 17, but 17 was the last one.
But what year?
1972 was the last year, but the Apollo mission was only supposed to be the beginning of lunar exploration. We were supposed to then establish a moon base, perhaps have a space station, but as was reported during the conference, one of the astronauts said their ships were bigger than ours, faster than ours, they were menacing, and after we saw them, there was no question of us having a moon base. We were frightened off the moon. The other thing I'm going to show you is what frightened them off the moon.
I was in the UK recently, and I went to Glastonbury, and something happened while I was there. I was sleeping, and I had this vision. I saw an industrial, military, huge facility, and inside I peeked in, and this thing with huge eyes, like a gray, the big eyes and the head like that, came out, and it didn't have emotions,
Right.
and it just looked deep into me and scared me to death, and I wanted to run away from it, but I thought I could, and then the next day, a lot of negative stuff happened for like a month after that. Something affected me a lot.
Of course it does. It's
for
a traumatic
month.
experience.
And this being, I thought I could physically run away from it in a dream, but something happened to me. I got physically sick for a month. And is there some aspect about these beings that they don't feel emotion?
Well, I've described the Greys as animate but not alive. They don't have souls. They don't have feelings. They have a program. They're under control of some other higher authority, and they do affect humans in negative ways. A telepathic contact with an extraterrestrial may import negative concepts, negative ideas, self-doubt, depression.
Exactly.
Like
That's
that.
what happened. So they can like download it to you if there's a contact?
Yeah, well, you see, it may be their natural state to be in a negative state. And when a human who knows positive and negative,
Right.
interacts on a telepathic level. I say to people, telepathy is a duplex. That means that it's not a one-way thing. When an extraterrestrial intrudes on your mind using telepathy to implant a thought, they don't know that your soul is connecting to them and bridging. So they may want to impart a thought, an idea, a meme, but they don't know that you go in there, your soul, once they've opened the bridge, you come back with knowledge of them and their quote-unquote natural state, which is not human. And that is very disturbing to us. The idea of living without emotions and feelings,
Yeah.
that is alien to a human being.
So are they born out of a womb, these grays, or how are they produced?
Well, you're asking very controversial questions, but
What
I
have
have
you
to
heard?
answer. Well, not what I've heard, what I've deduced. The cattle mutilation phenomenon is long-standing. I've known about it for 40 years. And it's very consistent. They cut out the uterus, the womb. They take other tissue samples, and they go. And it is the suspicion, and my conclusion, deduction, that these cow wombs are being used to incubate their offspring, which are clones and hybrids. They are mixing alien genetic material with human material to create hybrids, which internally will be alien, but externally will look human. But they're not quite human, and I have met several people here at this conference who have expressed to me their experiences, and they felt that they met people who looked human, but for the same reason: no emotion, no conscience, not consciousness, no conscience. Apparently no sense of right and wrong or good and evil, just an agenda that they're on and they must fulfill.
Is there a higher plan for them to learn emotion from us?
Well, my suspicion is that they crave the soul. You see, the human soul is a very special quality, that it's a God-given quality. And that quality makes it possible for humans to transcend dimensions, to live in the material world, to live in a spiritual world, to communicate with higher consciousness, and to act on behalf of higher consciousness here on earth. I personally believe that human beings are God's secret weapon, and that when we're in touch with the Godhead and channeling the creative force, we are able to act in the material world and act as part of the divine plan. The Greys, I believe, are the fallen angels. They lost their souls, and they're trying to get soul back. So they leech on human beings and take soul energy from us, and they deplete us. And that is, I believe, what may have happened to you.
It was out in Glastonbury.
Yeah, I've been to Glastonbury.
To the
It's
tour.
a very powerful energy center. It's not far from Stonehenge and Avebury. And these are energetically charged areas. The stones have a lot to do with it, the configuration of the tower. But Glastonbury lies along what was discovered to be ley lines. Ley lines are lines of telluric energy. The Earth itself,
what does telluric energy mean?
Telluric energy means that the Earth has a current. And just like we have veins that circulate the blood, the belief is that the Earth circulates this electromagnetic, graphitic, telluric energy.
It's like the circulatory system?
Yeah, I would call it the circulatory system, or the acupuncture system of Earth, you might say.
Oh, wow.
And in England, they found that these churches, Glastonbury among them, they're named, they lie along straight lines, and they could not have been laid in those configurations without GPS in modern times. They are so precise that they track right across England. And for example, there's St. Michael's ley line. And on that ley line, you'll have a St. Michael's church, St. Michael's Tower, St. Michael's Well. And this was discovered, Michel Amé, back in the 70s, when aerial photography and aerial surveillance, surveillance was invented, or realized that we could do that with airplanes. They wanted better maps, and it was then that they started to find that these places were connected in linear, along tracks. Secondly, it was discovered in the 1950s and 60s that UFOs followed these track lines and were either using them as guidelines or were actually tapping the energy to which I referred earlier.
Is it like a magnetic field? Or
Electromagnetic field. The Earth is an electromagnetic body. And really, only now are we realizing, or is it being allowed to come into public, that electricity, magnetism, and gravity are three forces that are interrelated. And what we're discovering here at the conference and discussing is why this technology has been suppressed. But I can understand that it's just too important, too powerful a force for the powers that be to allow it to be developed. And so economics, politics, and religion are the three
everything
elements
centers around it.
around that.
Everything centers.